Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode number 21 here in the Happy Space Prison. I did a little bit of tweaking and testing on our petroleum boiler between last episode and this one, and I just want to show you a few changes I implemented, so that way, if you were following along, you can see what I changed and decide if you want to use them up in your build. First of all, I dug up into here, removed the insulated tiles, and put in a ladder access and put in a door that I currently have locked, to make it so that our duplicates can get into this chamber in case I need to do any maintenance. And I put a door here. It's the same way. I'm actually going to lock this one now. I don't want them going in and out. Actually, no. I want that to be unlocked for the moment because I still have a couple things I need to sweep out of that room. I just changed some things. So what happened is I did some testing with this and in this build on my creative world and ran it for a few hundred cycles just to see what would happen, to see if there was any problems. And I did run into an issue. Basically what happens is if the oil runs out and we don't have the counterflow heat exchange, the petroleum coming back out is so hot that it breaks our pump, which stops the petroleum from being pumped out, and then everything overheats and we have pipe breakages and things like that. So I did a few tweaks to fix that. One is I changed it so that the automation here is a little different. Instead of this pumping directly into the system to go through and having the automation shut that off when I have the flow turned off, I still have the automation set to do that with all the automation here where it shuts off if the petroleum backs up, it shuts off if the crude oil backs up in here, meaning that we're not getting enough heat. And then it also shuts off if I turn the manual switch, which I'll do right now. Instead of it stopping this pump, the pump is still pumping, as you can see. It shuts off this shutoff. So oil is pumped from this chamber onto a loop. And that loop goes past our liquid pump in here and picks up some heat. So when you can see it's coming in here at 114 degrees, it goes past here, and then it's still at 114 right now because everything's kind of in a stable place. But it can pick up a couple of degrees temperature from this steel pump in here in case it's getting too much heat. And the reason I want to do that is because as this crude oil is emptied out of this pipe, now that we have shut the system off, the petroleum is still flowing down, but the crude oil is not. And so you can see the petroleum is getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And so we have 174 degree petroleum dropping down here. And that'll run away pretty quickly once this counterflow completely stops. And this chamber will get to about 350 degrees. And the pump breaks at 275. So now, when this oil is not being pumped in through this system to cool down the pump, doing a counterflow exchange, we have this loop that brings the heat off of the pump and drops it off into the reservoir here. It does two things. It keeps the pump from breaking. It also slowly preheats this pool of crude oil so that when we fire it back up, we have a little bit extra heat. Not much, but a little bit. And that heat is then safely stored in the crude oil for when we turn it back on and the oil goes back through. So this can empty out and we won't have anything break. At least so far. I haven't retested it, but I'm pretty sure it will work just fine. Because of that, messing around with that, I changed it. The heat up here is a little different. And so just to be safe, I added a few extra insulated pipes to make it so that the crude oil stops being heated here where it's at 390 degrees. This you may have to play around in your own build just to find the sweet spot so that basically you don't want it to get heated to the point where it turns to petroleum before it comes out. You want it to be right around 390, 400 degrees. Ooh. Yeah, because the petroleum there is 402 degrees, so any blobs there might actually heat up. So what I had is it was breaking right here, so I just put in a couple extra insulated pipes that prevents it from doing it. So now we can fire this back on again. And if the automation had done it, it would have done the same thing. And you'll see that the shutoff is on, so it's now pulling the oil off the loop, which has been heated just a little bit by the pump, by cooling down the pump here. But this pump managed to stay cool enough that we didn't get it to the point where we were overheating it, which is the goal. So now it's still cooling down this loop here, because once this loop is done, this pump will start pumping more oil back on. First thing it does is it goes past and it cools down the pump a little bit, and then it sends it back out. And that just helps push this pump to where it needs to be so that it stays below that 200 degree mark. I don't want it to get anywhere close to the 275 degree mark where it'll start to break. So this is all working great now. So the next thing I changed is I reran our petroleum line, so it goes through here underneath a layer of insulated tiles, and then it has some radiant tiles down here that are going through a metal plate that's made of steel that we're slowly heating up to the point where we can take this polluted water and heat it up, and we're heating it up to turn it into steam. Eventually it'll get to the point, ideally, this whole room will heat up enough that this water won't collect. It'll just turn to steam as soon as it comes out and it lands on the metal plate. I actually opened up these volcanoes so that I could get the gold. I actually have, so it looks like some gold solidified there and turned into a buried object. So we'll have to dig that out again, which is no problem. The added heat from that is just adding into our heated carbon dioxide, which is fine. You can see the steam is collecting up here at the top of our, I don't know exactly what to call this. I guess maybe it's a sauna. I'm just counting, it's just my hot district. That's all it is for me. Everything in here is going to be hot. There's steam, there's carbon dioxide. I'm just, for now, letting it heat up so I can determine how much heat there is in here and things like that, so that I know what to deal with. I also put in a chimney stack over here. So basically, whenever I get polluted oxygen, it works its way to the top. It slowly works its way over and goes into here. And then if it gets to the point where we have polluted oxygen down to here, which means we're not going to have steam or anything in here, the pump will pump some of that gas out, and it pumps it onto this line, which goes into our gas sorting system. And that'll keep the polluted oxygen from building up. And eventually, the idea is that we'll have more steam in here than carbon dioxide, or maybe it'll balance out, and then we'll get to the point where we'll actually heat this steam up to the point where we can run it through a steam turbine to cool things back down in here. But we're far from that at this point. The heats just haven't gotten high enough. We'll see what happens with them and keep going from there. The other thing I worked on in between episodes was I got rid of these 2 ice biomes. I still have a little bit here to clean up. And I just wanted them out of the way. I'm getting ready to work on putting in our power connections over here. And I think I'm going to move our duplicants down into this area, a little closer to where they're going to be working. I haven't quite decided how I want to handle that yet. But today, the first thing I'm going to do is move these power transformers over so that we can get this heat out of here, because we're still working on getting all the heat out of this main area. We want anything hot to be in here or over here in the power spine, where we're going to have some cooling to keep those transformers cool going forward. We also have some work to do up here in this system, because we are kind of broken. The water flowing through wasn't enough to keep the steam cool, so the steam has built up, and this thing is over pressure. We had some pipes cracking and things like that. I think it's because this thing is the water level got too low. So I'm just going to set this to below 2,000 and just let this pump out the rest of the water here. See if this water flowing through can't do some work to cool down this steam. If not, we'll just have to figure out an active system to do it, because it's just too much steam coming out of here, and the steam is not condensing down into water at all. So something to look at, not something for today. Today we're going to focus on our power systems. Slowly been working on things and making some progress. First thing I wanted to show you is I added a feature in here. My ducts that were sending in carbon dioxide were getting overpressured because this room is very, very pressurized at the moment. So I added in this system down here, just airflow tiles. There is 4 kilograms of crude oil inside, 4 kilograms, so that it can move out of the way for the gas to come through, and it basically creates an infinite gas feed, and so the carbon dioxide can go in here. It gets pushed out. Each of these ones on the side have these 3 spots, and then I have ones in the middle that have an extra spot too. And that's because sometimes, like right now, some steam builds up in there, and it'll push it out as we go because of the amount of space around it for the gas to come out. So that means our carbon can keep flowing. This is coming from our sorter up here, where we're getting some gases. I don't know actually where that carbon dioxide is coming from. Somewhere along my sorting chain, there is some gases coming in. But then there's also the line from our natural gas generators. If they kick on, they'll be able to run now because the carbon dioxide will come out. And that's ultimately what's more important. I have the petroleum running primarily, so they don't really kick on at all, but they could. And we're building up a lot of steam in this room, which is what we want. We have our volcanoes still pumping out heat, all the power pumping out heat, and of course the petroleum feeding in, still pumping out heat. Up here in the map, I have been working on cleaning some things up. So a lot of the ladders are gone, and basically what I've done is I put the ladders 7 blocks apart. And the reason I did that is because when you put down items between them, if you look, we can reach all of this different construction here. Even the one in the middle, they can reach it. And that's because duplicates standing on top of the ladder can reach 4 blocks up, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then on this ladder, they can actually stand on the bottom part of the ladder and they can reach 3 blocks down, 1, 2, 3. So they can reach this whole area. So this is the perfect placement for us to put ladders, for us to be able to build wires and cables in between builds. And that's what we're doing here. I've redone some of our piping for the natural gas. So basically I have to reconnect this one. I took it apart while I was emptying the lines out. I have it set up so it sends natural gas down to this storage tank first, and then when there's excess, it goes down to our power. The hydrogen is now routing along this way and all the way over and then down, basically to get it out of my way down here. I'm just kind of preparing for the future. I want to have cabling as much gone out of there as I can. As far as the power, we're putting in power transformers on this side, and then I have autosave, you are my friend. Once we have the power transformers in, we have the cables that come across. So I'm basically working on trying to make it so each circuit is less than 2,000 watts. And this one is a little bit over, but I have these 4 incubators on there, so really that only counts as 240 because only one of them is ever on at a time. So this is way under. This one has 1945. Right now this one is over, but I'm still running the line, and I have a couple lines coming across, so we'll separate that out. And as we get the power on these, we're going to end up with lines down here that have no power. Then we can rip these transformers out, which means we will no longer have this heat generation down here, which is our goal. But so I'm doing the 7 block apart for the ladders all the way from the top to the bottom of the map. So it's taken a lot of time to slowly get it done. The other thing I did is we used to have an ice biome here and one here, I think. Yeah, here was where it was. And then, of course, the one down here. They're all gone. This one is still hot as heck because of the iron volcano in there. We're going to need to set up a proper tamer for this volcano and this one fairly soon, as well as one over here. And then this one is still, we still need to dig it out and pump out the fluids. I did build a little kind of sanctuary down here to keep these sleet wheats growing because I do not want the sleet wheat. I don't want to lose sleet wheat. I'm going to eventually build a sleet wheat farm. This will be my seeds for that. So these are kept in deep freeze a little bit. I don't know that the plants will probably not, the grain themselves will probably not survive, but the 2 that are growing should continue to grow because it's nice and cold in there. And we have it insulated, hopefully. So when we go to do it, we'll have those. We're probably going to do that sooner rather than later. Hopefully use some of the sleet wheat we have all around the place. But I didn't want to just lose it entirely because then we'd have to wait for a printing pod to give us a new one if we wanted to build a sleet wheat farm, and that is no fun. So I'm probably going to rip these 2 out eventually, but I'm not really worried about them right now. I'm going to finish working on moving this power over. And then the big thing we need to move after that is this system here. Everything down here is kind of broken, and it's because this room it doesn't have any gas in it. We're getting polluted oxygen because of the Slicksters. They're giving off polluted dirt from stuff rotting in here, and there's just no gas because there's no carbon dioxide output. The only output is this one here and this one over here, and they're just not putting out enough for the Slicksters. So the Slicksters are creating a mess down here. So I want to move this section into our hot tame room, and I want to move the Slicksters over there. The Slicksters will probably tear through my carbon dioxide really quickly, and that's okay, because now we'll have steam that will fill the room, and we'll eventually get the steam processing so it's hotter. We'll see how that works. I don't know that I'm going to have enough heat with what I have in here. If I had a regular volcano, it would be much better, but it's okay. We'll mess around with it and get it to work how we want it. So yeah, we're gonna move this over and get this set up so that it works in this room for good, and we'll clear this out and we'll move the Slicksters over, and then this section here we can vacuum out and have it join the vacuum section here so that we can have some more space to work in a vacuum. That's the goal. So yeah, I'm going to keep working on the power, and we'll come back once we have more of that done and we're ready to work on moving this over. Making more progress on our power, but I had a little bit of a problem. When I was digging out this ice biome up above, I guess the pressure somehow built up here and it broke a hole in the roof. Liquid all flooded down in, so I got to clean that up. We do have, most of these lines are now connected to the point where they're doing okay. This one again is just a little over 2,000, but it's got the incubators on it, so it's actually much less than that because only one of them runs at a time. This line here only has 1,620. I'm finishing that line right now, and then we can disconnect it right here and remove all of this down to here, and then pretty much just working through what's left here for these last few systems. So there is the line here that goes to our electrolyzers. We'll have to run that over. We have this one here for our oxygen pumps that go up to the Greco farm, and then we have this one here that goes over to connect up all of this stuff here, and then just this line here which has just these little things on them. I probably will just get rid of them. In fact, I can do that right now because I don't really need them anymore. So we'll get rid of that, all of this, which means we can remove this and these two transformers. So it's just a matter of working out all the different lines that you have, making sure that they're run pretty well. And then we're going to be working on moving this heavy watt wire. I'm going to probably pull this all the way out and run one that goes across to connect here. I do want a heavy watt line running across because I just want to have that connection here instead of having to run a transformer and a small cable for it. Just makes my life a little bit easier. So we'll leave this line and probably connect it across this way, so we can do that now. Let's do it right here. Come across the whole way, connect there. Like that. And then we will need to put in a joint plate here. I'm going to put in a conductive one, even though we're not using conductive lines yet, just because it'll be easier. I won't have to swap it out later when I upgrade. And then that will make it so that I can take apart this heavy watt line that comes down all the way here and through here. And all of this down here is fine because it's already connected across the system. So we'll have to work on those as well, but that means once we get these last four disconnected so that we have them connected somewhere else, we'll be done with these power transformers. You can see the heat is already dissipating because we've gotten rid of a few of them. So this heat will eventually get dispersed because there's no more heat generation going on down here, and that's our goal. Last of our transformers are moved, and you can see the heat is quickly dissipating. It is cooling off very well. There's still a little bit of heat down here from other things that are outside of the base, but nothing crazy, so it should even out really quick. This water is hot because I was running all of our items from when we cleaned out down here right through it. And that's why it's hot, but you know, we're going through that water anyway. So with the exception of this area, which is still really hot from all that salt water that was there, pretty much that means everything that's hot is contained. We have hot sections down here in the carbon district area. We have a hot section up here in this quote unquote tamed iron volcano, the one that I just sealed up in a cold biome. We're definitely gonna have to handle that soon. It has used up all the cold. This area is still hot. Oh, I have this area to close off now. I accidentally cracked open this leaky oil fissure when I was in there. Oh, I want them to sweep this stuff. Cleaning. Oh, that is priority 9. I guess they just haven't had a chance to get up here to grab it all. So we'll let them do that before we close it off. But I accidentally dug this out while I was digging out the ice biome. One thing I wanted to note for the power grid. Buildings, I build out of steel because I don't want them to overheat. Steel has an overheat temperature 275. So as long as I don't let this get too hot, they'll be fine. The wires, I did iron ore for the heavy watt wires. Mostly because eventually I will replace them with steel because I'll have so much steel that it won't matter. Steel's renewable. Iron ore I can recover, turn into more steel. The conductive wires are made out of lead. That's because lead has an over or a melt temperature of 327. So if I'm going to keep it under 275 for these, it's also going to stay underneath that point. So I have tons and tons and tons of lead. So this is like a free way to make some conductive wires all over the place. So it is starting to look pretty organized, I must say. This is all over here running. I'm going to leave this going for a while longer. I was thinking about moving the base, but I think I want to get some other things done first. Eventually, I want to put the base down here, I think, so it's closer to where all the work is being done. I'm also playing with the idea, I've always done one central base and then send people out to do work all over. I'm thinking about maybe making some different districts because I've been enjoying doing the carbon district. And once I get this done, I'll know how many dupes we need to work down here. I might make a little base for them to live down by here. And then I'll make a base that is all about the critters and I'll move the ranchers in there. Problem with decentralization that makes me avoid it is that means I have to either have multiple food sources at each location or I have to deal with the shipping problems of sending food to different locations. But I think that might be fun to figure out. So we might try to do that. Instead of having one centralized base, we might move different bases. Other things I'm planning on working on is having some farming stuff going on. I eventually want to have a ranch for every critter. I want to have a farm for every crop. And so having duplicates there to handle all the things that we need for that could be a fun way to do it. So we'll consider that as we go. But for now, we're going to continue working down here in the carbon district to get things going better. I also put in a pump here because the water was getting too high. So basically, when it gets above 100 kilograms on the second tile, this pump just pumps up stuff and puts it on the exhaust pipe from our oil wells and puts it back into this tank for now. I still want to get to the point, I think, where I'm going to try to get it so that this water is boiling and turn directly into water through that. But I also need to get a pump in here to work on this area because this is all the excess from the ice biomes that we broke apart. They're down here, everything dropped and now it's melting. I want to get it before it floods anything out. So we're going to just connect up to this and we'll do some power. What do I have for power here? I can just connect right onto the grid down here. The grid down here needs some more work too, but we have this power spine that can connect all the way down here. I could squeeze some in there, but mostly I already have a heavy watt line in here. Anything in here is just going to be connected directly onto the grid. The only reason that I don't like to connect onto the grid directly is because then duplicates have to walk past the heavy watt wires. which give them a debuff, but this area is going to be pretty gross anyway. So I don't think that this is going to help with their decor rating. So we'll just have to decor bomb them up in the base so that they can overcome the ugliness down here. So this is our next project. I'm going to move all of this stuff in one at a time over into here where it can let its heat go and be happy all day long. For the most part, I have just kind of copied and pasted our blueprint over here for our steel production facility. Everything is pretty much the same. I'm waiting to bring over all the materials that I have. Duplicates will start bringing them over. Priorities are set to 6 here. So once they have nothing else to do, they'll start filling everything back up. Automation lines are all the same. I did change the style of the rock crusher just for fun. I wish I had different blueprints for these. I don't have any. But anyway, this is all working fine. The only difference is instead of running a loop where I pick up oil with a pump and then drop it back out, this now is running on the same coolant that it has in it. So let's see if I can get this to go. I want somebody to come and do it right now so we can watch it. But this has a loop that just goes up and it's going through this steam area and then it's coming back out. And I filled it with petroleum. So that means now that they're running it, as soon as they're done doing their operation, it's going to vent out. It's coming out at like 220 degrees. It's dropping that heat off into this area around it and it's cooling back down and coming back in for coolant. So since it comes out over 200 degrees, it'll help heat this area up. And that's all I want. I want this area to get heated up so that we can get this steam a little hotter. Again, it's a lot of volume and I don't have a lot of heat. So I don't know if I'm even going to ever get to the point where this steam turns into steam where I can convert it. Not without an extra heat source. But we can keep dumping heat in here. No problem. At the very least, it'll hold the heat and things will run just fine. We'll see what happens as we go. But I moved everything over. Like I said, there's a bunch of stuff that I dropped from that. All the steel and things that'll just need to get picked up and put away. And I'm right now I have 2 pumps pumping up all this crude oil into these reservoirs, into the liquid reservoirs. I just want to get it all this oil up out of this room and into these, and then they can gravity feed into the petroleum boiler. Once we get through all this oil, I'll actually just turn on our oil wells, and they're already set up to run all the oil into this area. I do need to fix some of the piping because I've been removing some of the liquid reservoirs here, but we'll be able to just turn it on and then the oil will feed directly into the petroleum boiler. We're making 10 kilograms per second of oil. We're converting 10 kilograms per second into petroleum, and we're burning 10 kilograms per second. So once our excess oil is gone, we'll just keep up with the system and just get free water out of the deal, free power out of the deal, and use this sustainable loop of oil for our benefit. So the only thing I haven't moved from in here is the transit tubes. And I think I'm going to wait to work on moving transit tubes around until I have a better idea of how I'm going to lay the base out. So that won't be too long, but I'm not doing it this episode or the next one. So this will just sit here and wait. It at least gets them down here close enough that they can get in and run across to where they need to be. I'll probably build some kind of system out here where they can get in, and then, or maybe like right next to here so they can come in through the liquid locks, because I don't want to keep these inside this room because it's hopefully going to get very hot in here. And this is made of plastic, and plastic melts pretty quickly if we leave it in that room. So I do not want it in there, but we'll figure it out as we go. The this oil is, there's still quite a bit of it, but we'll go through it pretty fast. So we'll have to keep an eye on that so that we can keep our power going. But I do have a backup with our natural gas generators to power quite a bit. So a lot of things to clean up in this base, but we are getting there. We have one more step in the sustainability system going. Now we have sustainable power that can create more fuel for itself, and that's pretty awesome. I'm going to continue working on doing our layout with the fixing up the ladders and removing some of these pathways for people. Also just making it look a little nicer. And then I also want to work in the next episode on clearing out these gases and liquids that are all over the place, just causing a mess, and doing some general cleanup. The next big project I have to work on, and that's what I'm going to do next episode, is these volcanoes that are here that are outside of the carbon district. I have an iron volcano, a gold volcano, and another iron volcano. I want to set up some tamers on those so that we can harness the refined metals that come out of them for free, and we'll use steam turbine to cool them down, get the materials cooled down at least enough that we can build with them, and that's it. That's all we're going to do with it. And then once we have those done, we can finish removing these last few things from the natural environment, and we'll just have to continue working through things. I'm also going to do some more work with our achievements, because we're getting there, but we still have quite a bit of them to do. And we're really far in, much farther than I normally would be. But as I've said before, this playthrough, I'm trying to go kind of slow so that there's just like one thing in each episode so that new players, when they're watching, can kind of learn what they're doing. I'm already thinking ahead to my next playthrough. I have a couple of ideas for it. One thing I want to do is I'm nearing 10,000 hours of playtime, and Oxygen not included. I think I'm going to try to do a run where I can survive for 10,000 cycles, which will take quite a bit of time. I also want to pick a map type that I have not done before. So far, I've only done Terra on... I've done Terra in the Spaced Out DLC. I've done Terra now in the base game. I'd like to pick... Oh, and I've done an Oceania map on the DLC. And I'd like to pick one of the more challenging ones. I'd like to do it in the DLC and throw in as much of the DLC as I can into our next playthrough. But it'll be a while. I think I still have a good amount of episodes left in this one. We haven't even started to approach space yet, and we're definitely going to finish all of that in this playthrough. So I hope you guys have enjoyed watching. Stick around to see some more, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.